Hello. Um, Hi. Good evening. I hope you're doing well. I'm kind of sick. I'm not gonna lie. Um, Completely forgot what the hell I was doing. Oh yeah. So, I might have said it earlier, but it's been a couple days since I started recording. But I recently made a reading journal, and I have some shots of what it looks like and what I've been tracking in it. I have discovered that in this reading journal, I started tracking genres of books and my ratings of them. I track other stuff like the number of pages, my thoughts, what the book is about, all that type of stuff. But I've noticed a trend in my reading journal, which is I don't typically like YA anymore. But I'm also like in my early 20s, so like I don't really think YA is my cup of tea. I definitely like know people who are in their 20s, late 20s, mid 20s that still read YA, but not my cup of tea. I talk more about that in a different video where I talk about Twilight. So if you're interested in like me talking about YA, what YA was like back when I was in high school, and what YA seems to be like now, you should check that out because YA now is wild. But regardless, that being said, I went through some of the books that were in my reading journal, and I've noticed my favorite genre tends to either, I guess, books that classify as literature or novels, which I don't really like people using novel as like the genre because that's just a word for like we don't know what the fuck this book like genre this book fits into, right? But that being said, I typically enjoy literature, like books that you would be forced to read in high school. Hold on. Before you click off, let me just say, not every book that is required reading in high school I enjoyed. I've revisited some books that I was forced to read in high school that I still hate to this day. Whoo child. I got a blast to the past. There are like a vast majority of books that schools read to you, make you read are good books. The issue is that people, like 90% of people, tend to enjoy books when they're not being forced to read them. I think people enjoy anything when they're not being forced to do it. Ooh, ooh. Okay, that's a different conversation. But I'm just saying, like, when you don't have to read a book for school, you enjoy it 10 times more. The exception is Shakespeare for me right now. I don't think I'll ever be into Shakespeare. I'm sorry. Y'all are just gonna have to cry about it now. But Shakespeare ain't happening, y'all. Not right now. That being said, I have some books that I got from my bookshelf. And I'm sure there are more books that I've read when I was younger and in high school. But right now I'm just going off of the ones that are on my bookshelf. So, this is a video of bookish suggestions of books that I think you should read. And I'm going to present to you each book, the author, and my description of what it's about. Because sometimes, okay. You know how you read, like, the back of the blurb of the book, and it doesn't really tell you what the book is about? Or, instead of actually telling you what the book is about, they just tell you how good the book is. I'm going to try to give you TDLR of what it's about without spoiling too much of the story. Cool. This is in no particular order. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books. Take it for what you will. Here we go. All right. Hi, everyone. I am going to give you a tour of my reading journal that I started. And it's not much to look at. There's not that much in there, but I'm doing it on my bed and I'm also like holding this. So like bear with me. But this is it. I don't know. It's a relatively good size. It's not necessarily like the biggest thing, but it's not like small enough to put in your pocket. Cause like I know some people like super mini notebooks like that, but it's a navy kind of blue black color. It's like it says write it down on it. When I went to the store, I was trying to find a pink one, but I couldn't, so this is what I got instead. The pages of it, let me go to a blank page. You probably can't see, but it's like dotted.
Oh, you can kind of see. Yeah, you can see now. It's dotted. I originally wanted one with like lines on them. It's dotted. And then here, I originally wanted one with lines, but then I was like, I'll just settle. So here is books I read in 2018, and I thought for every new year I would document like all the books that I read for the year. And 2018 and 2019 haven't been a good run for me so far because obviously I haven't been posting that much. I also haven't been reading that much. But what I've been documenting for each year is the title of the book, the author right below it, and the number of stars I gave it out of 5, and then the date that I finished the book. Here I wrote down the total number of pages, and I'll explain that later because I didn't document like write down on this page how many pages I read. So let me go to the next page and show it. So the first book that I ever really started documenting was Not If I Save You First. I have the date that I finished reading it, the stars, the title, author. That is the number of pages. That's its genre. This is my little blurb of what it's about in my own words and not necessarily just copying like the blurb of the book, and then comments on what I thought about it. I left space down here for like drawings and doodles and stuff, but I can't draw, so like I haven't gotten that far yet. Here's more examples. Focus. Here's more examples. I need to show one of, is it in here? Oh, this one. For other books, I'll write down like themes if I feel like the theme stood out to me enough. But you can see like I did it with most books. Not all of them. It's usually with the YA ones that I didn't bother. And then here's the books I read in 2019. And I left some more space just in case, but the year's almost done, so here are more books. Perfect Peace that I read. House of Spirits. Yeah, and I had like markers and stuff that I do the stars and like pretty stuff with. So here's the bag that I usually have like books and stuff in. It's pretty cute, I think. Pretty simple. But this is the notebook where I do like rough drafts. Can't see it. It's just a normal composition book. And then I have stuff in here where it's like pens, pencils, highlighters. And then these are the pretty markers that I bought. So my first book that I want to give you is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bront. I believe is how you say it. It's unabridged. This book, I don't remember how I came across this book, honestly. I'm trying to remember. I think someone either gave me this book or I found it for very cheap. But I remember reading this. I read this for school. I remember this. This was my freshman year, and my English teacher gave us a list of books we could choose from that we wanted to read. And there was like, I remember everyone picked some really stupid book of like not Dinner with a Vampire, zombie vampire, president's vampire, some crap with vampires that I was like, that book is stupid. I picked Wuthering Heights because it seemed like the only book that I would like kind of tolerate. I fell in love with this book, y'all. I know, this also made me want to read Pride and Prejudice because a lot of people were like, well, if you like that, you'll probably like Pride and Prejudice. I think I got my hands on Pride and Prejudice at the library, but I never finished it for whatever reason. Not because I didn't like it, but just because I think I was doing something else and just didn't have the time. I couldn't make time to read it. So this book is 248 pages. It's got tiny text, and it's kind of got, does it have Bible pages? It doesn't have Bible pages. But basically the story is about this family. And I'm trying to remember the last name of the family. The girl's name was Catherine. I can't remember her maiden name, but she got married to Linton, so I'm just going to say it. Basically, it's about this girl named Catherine, and it's about, like, basically 2 generations of this family. It's kind of like a little Shakespeare-y at first, where her family adopts this child, and his name is Heathcliff. I think that's how you say his name. Heathcliff? Heathcliff was my favorite character, by the way. I loved Heathcliff. Even when he was being an ass halfway through the book. But
Heathcliff family adopted, but then they basically, ooh child, they basically treated him like they're the family's servant. And he falls in love with Catherine. However, Catherine's father will not allow it. And like she ends up marrying another man, and then Heathcliff goes on to like it's like from rags to riches, but the emphasis is on like Heathcliff's love for Catherine. And then they have children, and children get into the picture, and then it's basically like love and desire. And just read it. I promise you, just read it. It's hard to explain, but please read it. It's great. It is great. It's wonderful. It's, oh my god, it's everything I require. Which is interesting. Well, that's kind of spoilery, but it's interesting because spoilers. But Heathcliff kind of becomes like the man, like he becomes the exact same way that Catherine's father was, and it's really interesting. But yeah, it's basically the story of this family going through love and loss, and anger and desire, and not being able to get the desire. Oh, it's great. If I think of a better way to explain the blurb of this story, I will try to, but I beg you, out of all the books to read, please read this one. It's great. Alright, the next one is one I read more recently, which is The Perks of Being a Wallflower. This has a movie. I haven't seen the movie. I've heard the movie is decent, but the book is always better than the movie, so you should look at the book. You should look at The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Basically, The Perks of Being a Wallflower is a coming-of-age story about Charlie. And Charlie is basically this weird kid that's just trying to fit in and find himself and figure out how he fits in and stuff. And people like Charlie because he's weird. It's written more in the perspective as Charlie sending you, the reader, letters anonymously. And he's changed the names of most of the characters, so I don't think Charlie is his real name. And I don't think we ever find out Charlie's last name. But it's interesting just because it's literally like a coming of age story. Like Charlie deals with a lot of things teenagers deal with around the time they become teenagers: sex, drugs, partying, friends, breakups, all that type of stuff. Like it's interesting. There's also some interesting information about Charlie that kind of happens near the end. But I don't want to spoil it. Read it if you get the chance. It's interesting. I believe part of the reason why I like this so much is because it's a coming of age story, but it's not told in a way that's like cheesy. Because sometimes when you get into like the coming of age story, it gets real cheesy. And like it's done in a way where you can't necessarily relate to it. But I think even if you can't relate to it, it's so cute that I was like, I can't even be mad. Like it's done in a way that's not cringy. And because of that, it has a special place in my heart, Perfect Peace. I read Perfect Peace. Perfect Peace, from my understanding, is not necessarily a required reading in any schools, but I think it should be. Perfect Peace, if you don't know, is a book, and I reviewed it. Check it out if you're interested. But Perfect Peace is basically a story about this black family living in the South. I don't remember where in the South. I wish I could remember. This black family that's living in the South, and the mother, Emma Jean is her name. Emma Jean basically has like 6 or 7 boys. And her issue is that she really, really wants a girl. That's how they got up to like 7 kids in the first place, is because she kept trying to get a girl, but she just couldn't get a girl. So the book kind of starts off with her having the 8th kid, I believe. Was it the 8th kid? But I think it was like her 7th or 8th child, which was, again, another boy. However, she wanted a girl so desperately that she decided to raise the child as a girl. So she named the child Perfect, and the name of the family is Peace, the Peace family, so Perfect Peace. But she named the child Perfect, and she grew the child up as a girl. However, I think when Perfect was like 10... No, I think it was like when Perfect was 14 or 15, Emma Jean told the entire family the truth, and that Perfect was born a boy and is going to live their life as a boy now. But it's really interesting because it talks about gender and how people view gender, and especially in the Black community, how people view gender, how people view sexuality, how people view all types of stuff. Imogene has her own trauma. The reason why, and they say it within like the beginning of the book, so it's okay. But the reason why she wanted a girl so much was because she was abused by her mother. So she wanted to have a girl to basically prove to her mother that she could be a better mother than her. The issue is she never got a girl. So it's interesting, especially seeing Imogene dealing with that trauma rather poorly, if I'm being honest. But it talks about a lot of like different mental health issues and like gender stereotype. It's great. It is great. Oh, it's great. Please look at it. Please peek at it. Speak I read in... I should be saying who these books are by, shouldn't I? And I'll put it up on the screen. Speak is a great book. I read Speak when I was in middle school, actually. I wasn't in high school yet, but I know a lot of people read Speak in high school. I read Speak in middle school mostly because I remember going to the library and I was still like heavy bookworm back then, so Speak was a book that I picked up. I haven't touched it since middle school, but I still have this copy. Speak is great. Oh my god. So basically, how do I put this? Melinda Sordino. I completely forgot her name. So Melinda basically, it starts off with this story of Melinda who's starting, I believe she's a freshman. I don't know if she's a freshman or sophomore, but basically she's starting to go to school, and it starts off with like basically the whole school hates her. And you're trying to figure, the whole story is like her trying to figure out, why does everyone hate her? Why is everyone so upset with her? Why is everyone rejecting her this way, right? And it says at the back, Melinda Sordino busted an end of the summer party by calling the cops. So her old friends won't talk to her, and people she doesn't know hate her from a distance. The safest place to be is alone inside her own head, but even that's not safe because there's something she's trying not to think about, something about the night of the party that, if she let it in, would blow her carefully constructed disguise to smithereens, and then she would have to speak the truth. The whole story basically is something happened at the party that made... Am I giving too much away? That Melinda called the cops for a reason. Everyone is upset with her because they're basically like, oh, you're the goody two-shoes that ended the party. And it's interesting just because she deals with, which I guess is kind of part of the themes, but she deals with just loneliness and depression and not fitting in and being very introverted and quiet, and which was down to a T of how I was in high school. Horribly bullied. Oh my god, was she fucking bullied. Not being able to talk to people about her issues. It's great. It is great. This one I read, and this one is kind of controversial, I know, because some people, well, let me tell you what the book is. The book is Maud Martha by Gwendolyn Brooks. If you don't know already, Gwendolyn Brooks actually wrote a book. This is the only book that she wrote, as far as I know, because Gwendolyn Brooks is more famous for her poetry than her book. She wrote a book, and I was like, oh, I didn't know she wrote a book. I'll check it out. So I ordered this book off of Amazon. It's great. It is great. But it's a bit controversial just because I know a lot of people consider it... What's the word I'm thinking of? Like, it was basically like, from a literature standpoint, a failure. And it's gotten criticism because it's the first book, in people's eyes when it came out. A lot of people considered it a book that talked about nothing. Like, it didn't necessarily have a point to it. But in my defense, I believe that Maud Martha is very much similar to the other books in this pile. Just because, to me, it was very much so a coming-of-age book. But I just think when it came out at the time, it people didn't receive it well because coming of age books weren't really like that popular back then. That's my guess. Modern Martha is a story of this young lady. I think it goes from her middle school days all the way up to like her adulthood. Don't quote me on that. But basically, it talks a lot about colorism, mostly colorism. It's heavy on colorism, racism, love, life, romance, being desired. Basically this young woman, Martha, who is dark skinned, and just her trying to live her life the best way she can. She dealt with some shitty boyfriends, trying to find a job. I think at some point she was homeless, question mark? I'm trying not to confuse it with the other book that I read, which was The Blacker the Berry, which is kind of, like, the themes are kind of similar, which is why I'm trying not to confuse these two. Portrays one woman's quest and love for life despite its difficulties, whether she confronts teenage love and marriage or the challenges of womanhood and adulthood survival. We come to face with Maud Martha, recognizing that her beauty and strength reside deep in every one of us. I like it. For whatever reason, a lot of English teachers feel some type of way about it. I think it's a good read. I'm gonna leave it at that. The last book that I want to suggest is called The House of the Spirits, which is a great Latin American piece. I believe, the issue though is that I don't know which country they were in. I forgot. I know some people speculated which country this takes place in, but I completely forgot. It's a great book. It's a long book though. It is a lot. She's a thick girl. It might take you a hot second to get through this unless you're somebody that like eats up a book in 400 pages like within a day. I probably could if I really wanted to. I'm not that good of a reader anymore. But it's about like 400 pages. Yeah, 400 pages. Basically, it is a book about the Trueba family. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Trueba family, I did a review on this, but it's a book about the Trueba family. And basically about like their 3 generations. So it's from Clara and Esteban. I forgot everyone's name. Clara and Esteban, and then their children, and then their grandchildren. So it tells the story of these 3 generations. It talks about their love. It talks heavy about the war that's happening in their country. It talks heavily about sexuality and sex, love, not necessarily drugs. It talks about wealth and slavery. It's great. It's great. You should peek into it. There were some issues that I came across during the book. It's not perfect, but it's still a great book, and I think you should read it. Based off of all of these books so far that I have read, these are suggested books that I think you should read. Please let me know of any good books that you think I should read based off of this. I'd be more than happy to take some suggestions. I currently am trying to read more. Because this is also like me, like, hey, I haven't read in a while. What's up? I have some books on hold at the library. My library is extremely slow at getting anything done. So they are not here yet. But I expect me to talk about some books. One of them is YA. The other one is another like literature book too. So those will be coming. Thank you for watching this video all the way until the end. That's all, folks.
1, 2, 3, funky.